Hello besties, good morning. Today I am coming at you from a little different location. I am currently in Ko'olina, Hawaii at Alani's Disney Resort, and I figured why not take advantage of my time here and film some of my end of year booktube videos. So obviously this isn't going to be the same as me holding up the books and having my bookshelves readily available for me to access, but I can do the second best thing and just put all of the book covers that I talk about on the screen so you guys still can get an idea of what I'm talking about. So after devouring many YouTube videos trying to figure out which end of year wrap up I wanted to do, I decided to use Bestie Destiny's 2023 end of year book tag questions. Those questions just seem like they cover the most bases and are questions that I actively want to talk about. So I'm going to type out and put all of the questions down below in the description box in case you are wanting to also do this tag over on your channel. We should just go ahead and get started. So the first question of this tag is, what was your most disappointing read of the year? I hate to say it, but for this one I have a couple answers. There were a few titles that let me down, but the number one, Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I get that it's a beloved TikTok book. I get that all of the girlies and their moms are talking about it, apparently for being spicy and it has the best scenes. Please tell me where. It was just basic. It was drawn out too much. I think the book was too long. It could have used some editing, and the characters and everything that they had going on just seemed so unrealistic for college-aged characters. Another one that I was disappointed by was You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kaylin Bayron. I read this in a video on my channel. This book was absolutely wild, and not in a good way. This supposedly young adult book was about this group of adults that worshipped owls, and they dressed like owls. They like sacrificed children into this lake to gain power. I don't necessarily recommend that one, and I was very much let down by it. Question number two is, what is your favorite underdog book of the year? This is a book that you didn't see coming that just absolutely blew you away. For this one, I'm gonna go with Carly Fortune's Every Summer After. I ended up reading this one after Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren, but something about this story, the childhood friends who reunite and get together turn to lovers, I ate this up. I read it in literally like 4 hours. I started the audiobook at work and I finished reading it as soon as I got home. All around, I just had so much fun enjoying this book. The third question is, what is a book that was overhyped? Some of you are going to question me for how I'm going to answer this. I'm going to go with Anything by Frida McFadden. This year I read The Coworker and The Inmate by her. I just don't understand how her books get all of this hype. It's probably from TikTok if I'm being honest, but just something about her books. They're just so basic to me. I can predict everything that happens. The characters aren't ones to die over. I'm not actively wanting to read a Frida McFadden. So overall, they are just not my favorite. The next question is, what were my favorite book couples of the year? Obviously, I have to give it out to Zayden and Violet from Fourth Wing. I would be silly not to. Everyone loves that book for the most part. Another couple that I should give a shout out to is Sarah and Rowan from The Fine Print. I read this book earlier in the year. The setting of like a Disneyland-esque theme park. They have so much fun together. He sees her so well. A young adult couple that I want to shout out is from Check and Mate, and those are the characters of Mallory and Nolan. Their relationship based around chess, I was swooning. I was swooning. It was so cute. The way he takes care of her siblings, yes. Question number 5 is my favorite main characters of the year. I have 3 specific characters that stuck out to me. The first being Amina from The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. This is the start of a new adult series that is based around pirates and voyages and quests and heists and some of the best friendships and relationships. She's a badass, she's a mom, and she's the one going on all of these adventures. Definitely recommend. A second favorite character is kind of stretching it because he's not really a main character, but I have to throw in Liam from Fourth Wing in here. It would be criminal for me not to. Everyone's heart was captured by Liam, mine included. He is a gem. My third favorite character is kind of silly, but I loved Frederick from My Roommate is a Vampire. The way he is learning about the modern world as he's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and throughout this book his eyes are opening to all of these new experiences and what the modern world is. I just loved him, and he is so funny, and he also cares for everybody tragedy in his life so deeply. 10 out of 10 would recommend. The next question is a book that surprised me, and for this one I picked The Shining by Stephen King. I read this back in January of 2023. I chose this one because I did not know that The Shining had like a magical fantasy element to it. I just thought it was like a cut and dry slasher kind of book, but I was absolutely wrong. Since I didn't know it had that element, it absolutely shook me when I realized there was more to The Shining than just killings. Question number 7 is a new favorite author that I discovered in 2023. For this one, I went with Stacey Willingham. I read A Flicker in the Dark and All the Dangerous Things back to back. I did enjoy All the Dangerous Things more than A Flicker in the Dark, but I can definitely see myself picking up more of her books as she publishes them. She took the stories and twisted them in a way that no other author is really doing, so I'm looking forward to her next publication here in a few months. Question 8 is what is my happiest read of the year? This one was a tough one to pick because a lot of books make me happy, but one that just like fueled my soul was In the Weeds by B.K. Borison. I have such a fun time with her books. I love them, I highlight them, I absolutely am consumed by them every single time that I pick one up. When I read In the Weeds, it brought me out of a reading slump and it just gave me so much joy back into my life. Question 9 is what is the most frustrating book you've read in 2023? Hands down, Sean Gilbert's She Started It. This was a book of the month selection that I gave into the hype and it was not worth it. Hate is a strong word. I very much disliked this book. It was pointless, it was catty, it was Mean Girls takes on a tropical vacation. It was predictable. I don't want to spend too much time on the negative, but that was the most frustrating one I read this year. Question 10 is what is the best adaptation? Again, this is going to be a short answer because I am not a watcher of TV shows or movies that are adapted from books. I am not a watcher of like any shows, period. The only adaptation that I did watch this year was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. That's actually my favorite book of the series because I did complete a reading challenge and read the entire Harry Potter series this year. That has been on my TBR for ages, so I'm very proud that I took the time to do that. And speaking of Harry Potter, question 11 is what is the longest book that I read this year? And that was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. This book tallied in at 870 pages. I thought my longest book of the year was going to be like Fourth Wing or Iron Flame. I was completely wrong, patting myself on the back for that one. Now on the opposite end of that, the next question is what is the shortest book I read this year? Hands down, I just read this a few days before coming to Hawaii and it is Frida McFadden's The Gift and that tallies in at 51 pages. I know I just gave Frida McFadden a run for her money with what I said earlier, but this short story packed a punch. It got to the point, it was weird, it was creepy, it was horror-esque. I actually really enjoyed it. I didn't rate it above a 3-star because it is a 51-page book and I feel like that should be like a completely different star rating than how you're rating your novels, but I would recommend it for the holiday season. Question 13 is what are my favorite covers of the year? Some of these I actually haven't read, but I just think their covers are beautiful. The first of being Big Swiss by Jen Beacon. The way this woman is positioned on the cover with her mouth and just her expression of her face, stunning. The next one is an anthology of dark fiction and that's Whistle at Night. The black cover with all of the pastel and neon colors, kind of like my t-shirt. Absolutely love. I fell in love with that cover when I saw it. I don't know if I'm ever going to read it because it is an anthology and I'm not much of an anthology girl, but it might be one that I'll pick up in the future just because of the cover, which normally I never do. Another one that I have read is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. This rabbit got all of the hype when it came out and it still holds up. Then the last one I want to add is Foxglove by Adeline Grace. I haven't read this one yet, but it is on my Christmas list. I feel like it's the perfect book to read within like the first few months of the year. This cover, the face and like all of the flowers, stunning. Question 14 is a book that I haven't stopped thinking about. Again, I could go with Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, but I want to spruce up my answers a little bit, so I'm going to go with Isabel Cañas' Vampires of El Norte. I read this, I think, I want to say back in October, and I fell in love with it. Whoa! When I read The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas, I had the same reaction. Vampires of El Norte really just captured me, and I read the entire thing through. The way I described this book to my dad is think of like a Hallmark movie, but add in an element of historical fiction with a touch of vampires, and that's what you're going to get within this book. When it comes to remembering what I read, I have a terrible memory, but the fact that I can recall almost everything that happened in this book, I'm just telling you, it's one that will remain with you for quite some time. Question 15 is, what is the cringiest book I read this year? And without a doubt, it's going to be The Last Final Girl by Stephen Graham Jones. The way that Stephen Graham Jones portrayed women in this book just made my skin crawl. Usually I'm not the biggest one to nag about small details like that, but the descriptions that he had just describing the women and the stuff the women were doing, if someone was being killed, you didn't need to talk about their boobs. End of discussion. Question 16 is, what is an unpopular book I loved? This one I didn't even have to think about because I already know what I'm going to pick, and that is El Casimano's Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun. I have seen so much hate for this one everywhere, giving it low stars, saying it's like an unnecessary book to this series, but I thought the complete opposite. I really loved this book. I thought it was great. It's probably one of my favorite, if not the favorite of the series so far. Question 17 is, what was the highest and lowest rated books that I read this year on Goodreads, and if I agree and disagree. So the highest rated was Fourth Ring at 4.64 stars. Obviously, I agree with that. There's really not much I can say about it just because I loved it so much. And then the lowest star rating was The Last Final Girl by Stephen Graham Jones. That comes in at 3.12 stars, so definitely a lower rating, and it seems like the majority of people agree with me on this one. There was just something about it that didn't hit the same compared to his previous works. Question 18 is, what are my favorite quotes of the year? I'm gonna skim over this question because I don't really annotate, I don't tab my books, I don't really highlight. The only books that I do highlight are B.K. Borison's romances. Question 19 is, a book with the most unique concept. I had to think about this one for quite a bit because there were a lot of books with an interesting storyline behind them that I read this year, but the one that stood out the most was The Last Word by Will Dean. I haven't read any Will Dean before this year, but this one was following Kaz. She is our main character, and she steps on board this cruise ship for the vacation of a lifetime, but when she wakes up the next morning, everyone on the ship has vanished. All of the passengers, all of the crew, everyone. And that's really all I want to tell you, because going into this book blind is definitely the way to go about it. I was consumed by this. It is on the longer side, but I definitely recommend powering through. The chapters are really short. All I can tell you is to read it. Question 20 is a book that I read and would reread. I mentioned this earlier, but for that I'm gonna go with Ali Hazelwood's Check and Mate. This was her first young adult book that she published this year. Like I said, there was just something about it. The characters, Mallory did get on my nerves a little bit. Just the whole setting about chess, and coming from me, a person who knows nothing about chess or have ever read a book about chess, I don't know how factual it checks out to be, but it was definitely a story that kept me entertained. I loved the romance and would definitely reread it in the future. Question 21 is, what is your reading goal reflection, and what is your 2024 reading goal? Every year I set the same reading goal for myself. I just want to read 52 books, cut and dry, a book a week. This year I absolutely blew it out of the water. I'm currently sitting at 102 books read for the year, so that's almost double what I wanted my goal to be. I'm not one to change my goal as the year goes on, and I'm not one to add books to it. 52 is just a base number for me. This is my highest reading year ever, so I'm very intrigued to see what I'm going to finish the year with. And then again for 2024, I'm just going to set my reading goal to be 52 books. Then the final question of this tag is, after 2023 reading, what are you prioritizing in 2024 reading wise? This one I had to think about a little. Something that I want to continue to prioritize in the new year is continuing to read what I want. I didn't put any pressure on myself to read what the girlies were reading, to read what was currently hyped up, to read what was currently being talked about. I just read what I want when I wanted to, and that is something I want to continue in the new year. So the fact that I was still able to hit that goal, I think reflects back on me enjoying reading, taking breaks when I need to, and just reading what I want when I want to. With all of those questions being answered, that is the end of the 2023 book tag. Thank you, Destiny, for coming up with these questions and for posting your video and for allowing us to have time to make our own tags. I figured there's no better setting than to film this video here in Hawaii while I have the chance, so I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know some of your personal reflections on your 2023 reading year, or what are your goals heading into 2024. You guys know all of the YouTube stuff to do. Like this video, comment down below, share it with your friends. I'll catch you guys in the next one, but right now I'm gonna go jump in the ocean. I'll see you guys soon. Bye! I just don't understand where the hype come from. I just don't understand where the hype come from. I just don't understand where the hype come from. Jesus Christ. I just don't understand where the hype comes. I just don't understand where the hype comes from. I just don't understand where the hype comes from. I just don't understand where the hype come from.